Ever find yourself skipping breakfast or eating something loaded with calories because there's nothing ready to eat? Yeah, me too. But what if you could easily lose weight while eating McDonald's and have breakfast ready in just 60 seconds? I recently did a mini cut and abused this recipe to do just that. In this video, I'll show you how to make sausage egg McMuffins in one pan for half the cost, a third fewer calories, and 50% more protein. Plus, I'll reveal the best storage and reheating tips so you're set for breakfast today or 6 months from now. Let's get into it. Have you ever wondered why McDonald's sausage tastes so good, yet nothing you make at home ever comes close?
We do it all for you.
The biggest challenge for this recipe was replicating the flavor profile of the iconic McDonald's sausage patty. And when I say biggest challenge, I mean it. It took nearly 4 years to perfect. To put this into perspective, I started testing this recipe back when Donald Trump was in office, and now he's about to be sworn in again.
A big and tasty for just $1.
So how do we achieve the McDonald's sausage taste we all know and love in our home kitchen? To figure it out, I did what I do best. Eat. I'm kinda kidding, but not really.
I have eaten so much f***ing meat the last 4 years.
Time and time again, I drove my happy ass to McDonald's bright and early, ordered some flavored meat. Time to go back to my childhood, baby. And went back to the house to compare mine to theirs.
My sausage just needs a little bit of tweaking.
That's what he said, right, guys?
After many trips to McDonald's, hours of online research, and several rounds of tweaking and testing, I'm confident that I've cracked the code.
I think number 25 finally nailed it. Oh my God.
My sausage is as close to the real deal as it gets, especially when considering the difference in macros. We'll start by taking 448 grams or 1 pound of 90-10 pork and placing it in a bowl. If 90-10 pork is hard to come by in your area, don't worry. You can substitute with ground beef or turkey that have similar macros. Just remember, this will give a slightly different flavor profile since traditional sausage is pork-based. As for the seasonings, you probably have most of these in your pantry, but there are 2 you absolutely can't skip if you want that authentic McDonald's sausage flavor, in my opinion. After 20 sausage attempts, I was nearly perfect, but there was an aftertaste that told me I was still missing one key ingredient. A month ago, I stumbled upon Australia McDonald's ingredient information and found the gold I was literally salivating over. Unlike the US ingredient information, they actually list out their spices, and rosemary was listed as an ingredient. Funny enough, it was right in front of my face the entire time. Rosemary extract is used as a preservative in the US version, but it never crossed my mind that ground rosemary could actually be in the meat too. It may be obvious to you, but that's why they call me Rick. And the rest of the internet really didn't know either. So, contrary to popular belief, the secret to making this sausage taste like the Mac Daddies is actually rosemary. The second essential ingredient is more widely recognized, sage. So into the bowl, we'll add 6 grams salt, 2 grams MSG, 2 grams black pepper, 1.5 grams sage, 1.5 grams rosemary, 1 gram garlic powder, 1 gram onion powder, a half gram nutmeg, 2.5 grams potato starch, and 20 grams erythritol. The potato starch might seem unusual and isn't in the original recipe, but it has 3 major benefits that help lower calorie cooking. 1, starch locks in moisture for a juicier result. 2, it replicates that fatty mouthfeel when eating it. And 3, it helps hold the sausage together before, during, and after cooking. Oh, and McDonald's doesn't use MSG anymore, but on the Wayback Machine, this is what they used in 2000. So because MSG is delicious and I want to keep it truer to the OG recipe, we are keeping it in the fold. By the way, if you appreciate the work that went into this video, please drop a like. Now, let's make sure we take a minute to mix the meat and seasonings together thoroughly. If you're in a rush, you can go ahead and start cooking the meat, but I highly recommend refrigerating it overnight or at least for an hour for the best flavor. Why? All the reasons I list on screen. I could go on forever about the benefits, but if you don't believe me, run a test for yourself. Make a batch each way and eat them side by side. Now let's start cooking. For the sake of time, the pan you use is important here. We want one with a large cooking surface, preferably a 12-inch pan or griddle. But don't worry, if yours is smaller, you can simply cook them in 2 or 3 batches. Let's get that going on medium heat. While that heats up, let's get our sausage sorted. Take some parchment paper, these are great because they come pre-cut and ready to go, and line up 6 pieces on the counter. Put the bowl on the scale, grab out an 80-gram chunk of meat and roll it into a ball. Place it on a piece of parchment paper and repeat until all 6 pieces have a ball on it. Add another piece of parchment paper on top and using a flat-bottomed pan, press the ball down until you create a 5-inch patty. While you can certainly flatten these directly in the pan, I like to do it beforehand to create a sausage patty that fits perfectly on each muffin. It's these small details that elevate a recipe like this from an 8 out of 10 to a 10 out of 10. That's why for the past 8 years, I've been obsessed with creating the most delicious, low-calorie, high-protein recipes that have transformed my viewers' bodies and health. And you can get access to all 160 of them using the link below this video. But not only that, I'm constantly adding new recipes, making sure you always have the variety needed to stay on track with your weight loss goals. Join me and the thousands of others who have already transformed their lives with these recipes. Click the link in the pinned comment and use code E4CM for 10% off the book. Now take the same piece of parchment paper you placed on top of the first patty and repeat for all remaining sausage. Stack them up and bring them over to the stovetop. By this time, the pan should be preheated, so let's add 3 patties to it. After placing each one down, carefully remove the parchment paper. We want to ensure proper browning, so let them cook for 2 to 3 minutes or until the juices are clearly visible on the top side, like this. Flip the patties and cook for an additional 1 to 2 minutes. Remove them from the pan and cook the remaining patties. Now simply take a paper towel and carefully wipe the pan clean. Since it's still hot, we prep the pan for the eggs in just seconds. Now for what some would consider the real star of the show, the eggs. If you've ever inspected an Egg McMuffin, you notice that there's no browning on either side of the egg. If it never touched something hot, how was it cooked? After a little research, I learned that the eggs are actually steamed until they are cooked through and never actually touch the surface of the flat top. After discovering this, I had to learn how to recreate it at home, and sure enough, the highly referenced Kenji has taught me even more. He recently made McMuffins himself and in the process, shared the trick of using an extra wide canning lid to create a perfectly round egg that fits flawlessly on the muffin. What's even better is that with a 12-inch pan, you can make all of these at once in just 3 minutes. The only downside is that the egg can stick. So to prevent that, I like to put each lid over the sink with the top facing me and give it a couple of sprays of oil. I'll place the lid inside of the pan and repeat for all other lids. This prevents oil from spraying all over the stovetop and pan, making cleanup even easier. Now we'll crack each egg into a lid, then break the yolk and spread it out a little bit if you want that signature runny yolk you see on their website. Before we steam, grab a pinch of salt and evenly spread it out over the eggs. McDonald's doesn't season their eggs, but it's a must in my opinion. And of course, add whatever other seasonings you'd like as well. Steaming is simple. All you need is some water and a lid. But what's the advantage of steaming an egg? It actually creates a more tender egg white and a creamy yolk, resulting in a much more satisfying final product. Speaking of which, if you're looking to save on calories and slightly boost the protein, you could use only the egg white. Just swap 1 whole egg for 2 egg whites. Throw a tablespoon or 2 of water into the pan and cover. The only lid I have is this rubber one, which does leak steam a little bit, but by setting a 2-minute timer and checking back, the eggs come out perfectly cooked. So even if you have a makeshift lid, it'll still do the job. Damn. Look at those beauties. Remove them using tongs and allow to cool. Before we finish the recipe, let's talk about storage and reheating to avoid a muffin that's hard as a rock or an egg that leaks water all over the microwave and counter. I've wrapped all 6 muffins in parchment paper, stored them in the fridge, and enjoyed them over the course of a week. They tasted great, but after about 4 days, the muffins and eggs started to become chewy and tough. That's why I strategically made extra Nick muffins and froze them. Once the eggs and sausage are completely cooled, yes, completely, assemble the sandwiches, place them on a sheet pan, and flash freeze for 1 to 2 hours. After that, vacuum seal and freeze them. The night before you want to eat one, take it out of the vac seal, wrap it in parchment paper, and refrigerate for 8 to 12 hours. Then, just reheat in the parchment paper for 60 to 90 seconds and let it sit for a minute or two to let the flavors meld together. In just 60 seconds, breakfast is ready to go. If you absolutely need to, you can microwave one from the freezer for 3 to 4 minutes, but the egg and sausage will leak some water and the bread will get a bit chewier and harder. Now, before we flash freeze, let's make sure we assemble the sandwiches correctly. This step is actually more important than you might think. We're using the 100-calorie English muffins, which you could find at most grocery stores. They're about an 8 out of 10 compared to the regular version and are totally worth the 40 to 50 calorie savings. Let's cut them in half and layer a slice of Velveeta on the bottom bun. This is the cheese you need if you want that classic McMuffin taste. Before we add the egg, we need to pat them dry. There will be excess moisture from the cooling in the lids, so I will put one on a paper towel, fold it in half, and add it on top of the cheese. The cheese barrier will stop the bun from getting soggy when we microwave the sandwich later. Again, I'll lightly pat dry any condensation on the sausages from cooling and add each one to the muffin. Finish with the top of the muffin, and in just 30 minutes, we have breakfast ready for the week, and these McMuffins will hold you over until lunch. But how do you stay on track the rest of the day and hit your calorie goals? With 41 grams of protein, this McChicken meal prep makes your next meal simple, yet delicious. So watch this video next. Until next time, deuces.